motivates our children? Why do some teenagers have a clear sense of direction in life, while others make destructive decisions that don't make sense? Why do so many adolescents make communication so difficult that their parents cannot help them to change their direction? And how can we influence our growing children, even when communication is difficult, and even when they are uncooperative? The truth is that in many cases, it is a dynamic within the family itself that drives teens to make poor decisions, even while their parents are trying their best to help them. In this film, you will meet a 13-year-old girl who has made 2 serious suicide attempts. You will understand the hidden triggers and influences in the family that prompted her poor decisions, and you will see how within a brief conversation, Tony Robbins was able to quickly understand her world, help her to eliminate her suicidal patterns, and give her a new compelling direction that has since transformed her entire family. We begin our story at the Tony Robbins live seminar, where the young girl, Hannah, has stood up to share some of the limiting beliefs that are holding her back.
This young lady right here, give her a hand. Oh, a big hand. What's your name? Where are you from?
Hannah. I'm from Virginia.
What's your name?
Hannah.
Hannah. Hannah, stand up. Oh, you are standing up. Okay. How old are you, Hannah?
Almost 14.
Almost 14. That means 13. We just learned a lot about Hannah, didn't we? So, Hannah, tell me, what's your most limiting belief?
Life isn't worth living.
Life isn't worth living. You're right. Who's next?
Tony agrees with Hannah's limiting belief in order to surprise her and to stimulate the part of her that wants to change.
Now, you don't want to lie to me because you know it won't work. Not because I'm mean, but I could pretend I am. Would you like me to pretend I'm mean? You got the hiccups. Do you know how to burp? Do you? Can you burp? Can you do like a cannonball burp? Because I think that's so cool. Can you do one? He's nodding his head yes. Do you know how to do a burp? No? That's your problem. Does somebody here know how to burp who could show her? I mean, I don't just want to burp. I want a cannonball burp. Anybody got one of those, that ability? Anybody got that skill? Anybody got that skill? Cannonball burps? Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am. Come on up here. Whoa! I need another microphone here. I need a second microphone. Okay, this is very important. Oh, you have one. I'm sorry.
It would seem that Tony is distracting from Hannah's problem, but in fact he has been dealing with Hannah's emotional state on a physiological level. Hannah's inability to let go emotionally is reflected by her inability to let go physiologically. By setting up a burping lesson, Tony creates the context of a game and sets up a humorous partnership between Hannah and her burping instructor.
Okay, so Hannah, I want you to watch very carefully. Tracy here is going to demonstrate a unique and powerful skill that if you'll adopt it, this little story that you even probably have thought about acting on, or maybe you've acted on it, haven't you? Oh, I can see that in your eyes. That's interesting. Did you take pills or did you cut yourself?
Pills.
Pills. Haven't you done the cutting thing? That's the cool thing. Yeah, that's what girls do now, right? They go cut themselves, get everybody's attention. Look at this, I got more slashes than you do. How many have heard about this, parents? Yeah, you haven't cut yourself? Why would you do pills instead of cutting yourself? Cutting yourself is cool. It's not cool to do pills. Why'd you do that?
Because cutting yourself is painful.
Oh, you want to die without pain. Would you like to see something that's not painful that will be extremely helpful? And you think this is a joke and it is not. I want you to model this woman's ability. Okay? She's going to now demonstrate it for you. Unbelievable. That's amazing. That's amazing. Hold it. That had a little bit of a cough to it. That was kind of a cough burp. I'm just wondering, and I honor you for it, but I'm wondering if you could make it a cannonball burp without the cough part, just the burp. Can you do that? Okay, you can try. One more, one more. Try to do what she's doing with your body. Notice what she's doing. Tell her what you're telling you what you're doing while you're preparing.
I'm pushing the air in.
Pushing the air in. How are you doing that? How are you pushing the air in?
I'm like swallowing it down, pushing it.
Just swallowing it down and pushing it. Okay, go ahead.
Use the back of your throat like that.
Okay, keep doing it.
It's building up.
Okay, keep it.
It might come out the other end.
Come over here. Step beside her on this side, because we don't want any of that stuff going at you, honey. All right, kind of do what she's doing with your body too. So tell her what you're doing.
Push it down like.
So take a breath in the back throat and kind of push it down. Go ahead. You keep practicing
push
with
it down. Like that.
Go ahead.
I have indigestion now.
Okay.
You want to like force it down.
Okay, now just build it up and do it now. She'll feel it. Okay, Hannah, your turn. Yes. You don't have to do it perfectly. We don't expect you to be as experienced as she is. Even if it's a little one, it's okay. Any form of one. Because you don't have her experience base. But you've learned enough to be able to play with it. Have some fun. Here we go.
Hannah had stood up, ready to tell the story of her suicide attempts. A story that would magnify her problems and dramatize her actions. When people are suicidal, they are often so unforgiving of themselves that they easily feel judged and criticized. Seeing Hannah's youth and vulnerability, Tony protected her by quickly shifting her physiology and her context to one of laughter, release, and being open to learning. Let's watch Hannah try to burp.
There, you almost had it right there. It's hot.
You can do it. You can do it.
Can you show me how do you do it?
Push the air in. Push it in. Like swallow the air. Push it down with your tongue in the back. Fill it up right here. And then just let it out.
That was, you're right there. You're right on the edge of it. Use the microphone. That'll help. That's it. You're right at the edge of it right there. Just let it all the way out, though. You held it instead of letting it out.
Not working.
It's not working. Maybe because you take everything in and you never let it go. But if you were to burp, do you ever fart?
Who doesn't?
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, an honest human being. So that means you know how to take in a lot of and still get rid of it. In multiple forms. You can transform into gas or solid matter, but it can leave you. Now, she just happens to know how to make it come back out the front end as well. But you do know how to do that, don't you? You just forgot you had that ability and you kept it all inside. Does that make sense? Now, you're a very courageous young woman. I'm honored to be in your presence.
As Tony had guessed, Hannah could not burp. The metaphor of burping became a way for Tony to talk to Hannah about her inability to release her emotions and thoughts, and the burping lesson became an ordeal from which she could emerge successful and with her crowd's full support. Notice that the burping has given Tony an instant way to make Hannah laugh at any point in the conversation.
So, tell me, why is life not worth living? While you fart.
I just feel like I'm so worthless and nothing matters. I started having these thoughts about a year ago.
You started having these thoughts about a year ago?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I took the pills about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And most of it has to do with my parents. Like, I don't feel like they understand me at all.
Yes.
The first time I took an overdose of pills was like back in May, just to scare them. Like, I wasn't trying to kill myself. I just like wanted to tell them.
You all hear this? The microphone's going to up just a little bit, but what she just said is she feels her parents don't understand her. And for a woman, which she's a young girl, but there's a woman inside, men, this is a lesson for you, for your daughters, as well as the woman in your life. There's nothing more important besides being loved than for a woman to feel understood. Ladies, if I'm correct, make some noise. If not, disagree.
Being 13, Hannah is at a transitional phase of life, no longer a child and not yet a woman. Tony gives Hannah the support of the group and normalizes her issue by making her need to be understood, a need that is universal to women of all ages. In this way, he makes a bridge between the young girl and all the much older women in the room. By addressing the men in the room in their role as fathers, he prepares them to take a lesson from the intervention with Hannah.
Most men don't understand how important understanding is. That's why women hang out with other women, because they understand. Men want to fix it. They don't want you to fix it. They want you to understand how up it is, how hard it is, how difficult it is. They don't want you to explain how to get out of that. So she doesn't feel understood by her parents. And the first time she's had these thoughts, and these thoughts she started to believe, feel certain, because she thought them a lot, right? You got in the habit of it. And then as a result of a thought, starts to create a feeling, and then a feeling you act on. But the first time was to scare them, which was really saying, please make me feel I'm significant enough that you want to understand and love me. Am I right? So you weren't trying to hurt yourself.
That was back in May. I just told him that I was having these thoughts and I just wanted someone to talk to, like a counselor or something.
Yes.
And they just kind of like pushed it aside. Like, they didn't believe me. They just thought I wanted attention. I was being a bitch, you know?
Yeah.
And so I tried to tell them, and then about a month ago in August, I actually took a lot of pills that I came that close to actually dying.
Yeah.
And,
Why didn't you die?
Because there were really awesome doctors there, and fortunately the medicine worked, and I was really thankful for God because he didn't let me die.
Or is that why you didn't die, or is it because you really want to live?
I think once I did it, I was just like, oh shit, what the hell did I just do? You know, I was like, oh great, you know, and then I told my parents, I was like, look, you need to get me to the hospital like right now, because if you don't, I am going to die. And
So you took the pills and then you went and told your parents you took the pills?
Yeah, well, they could also tell because I was like walking around like a drunk. I was like banging into stuff too. So, so they took me to the hospital and I wanted to live, but in the back of my mind, there was still that little voice that was like, you don't want to live, you don't want to live, but I really knew that I did.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So the reason you lived was?
I had the will inside to live.
Yeah, you never wanted to die in the first place, did you? So that whole story, which is really truthful, first of all, I appreciate the level of honesty you're having right now, which most adults don't have. I really honor you for that, first of all. It's fantastic.
At the very moment when Hannah is describing the lowest point in her life, her near death by suicide, Tony finds a way to praise and admire her and to engage the whole group in admiration for her honesty and for her will to live, raising her in this way from the despair in her story. He won't let her get stuck in her depressed mood and quickly elicits the positive in her situation.
And you're not a bitch, but you do want attention. Desperately. Because attention to you is love. Because you're feminine. You're actually a feminine girl still. There are very few left. It's a beautiful thing. In fact, you feel so deeply that if you don't feel appreciated, if you don't feel that attention, you feel like dying. Which is what the feminine feeling feels like. Most of them don't act on it. Most of them just become masculine. Say, if no one will give me the attention, I'll deserve the attention, I'll achieve, I'll control, I'll shape, I'll be as stupid as a man. That doesn't mean you can't do that. You can do that and still be feminine. How many follow the difference? Right? You can be yourself and still achieve. You can do anything.
When Hannah admits that she attempted suicide in order to get attention, Tony broadens the context to show that she is dealing with a universal problem of masculine and feminine energies. According to human needs psychology, masculine and feminine energies are shared by both women and men. However, everybody has a primary energy which serves to organize their experience, their needs, and their mode of feeling and communication. When Hannah acknowledges her feminine, she is acknowledging her need for attention and understanding, as well as her deep feelings of protectiveness, caring, and concern.
But when you give up your core, you feel dead inside even though you've achieved it all. Do more than any man and still feel miserable because you're not being yourself. Or do more than every man and be yourself. There's a difference. So you're still and you're feminine. That's not been taken from you. You've hung on to that. It's a beautiful thing. But your mom and dad, are they here?
I came with the Albans.
You came with who?
Dave Albin.
Oh, with Dave. All right.
Hannah was brought to the seminar by a family friend.
Your mom and dad, they love you, but they don't know what the hell to do. All right? They're scared shitless. Which part of you kind of likes? Ah, look at that little smile. Look at that. Ah, see that smile. Because it makes you feel like you're not at the effect of everything, that you have some control in your life. Which at nearly 14, people really want. What's happening between your mom and dad that you're not telling me? Because you're not just doing this for you, are you?
When dealing with a child's suicidal or despondent behavior, it is important to identify multiple levels of intention. The first level is a motivation to get attention, help, and love. Tony has already helped Hannah acknowledge her need for attention. However, for most children in despair, the level to address is the second level, the need to protect and serve one's loved ones. For most children, the parents are the most important object of love. Tony correctly assumes that Hannah's despair is not only due to a concern for her parents, but may also be a way to protect them and hold them together. Now take a moment to ask yourself, do you remember as a child calling attention to yourself to distract your parents from another problem? Could it be that your children's misbehavior has a protective function in your family?
You do want the attention, love, but there's something else going on. What is it? What's happening between your mom and dad that you want to distract them from?
Well, they do have some problems with their marriage.
You're afraid they're going to divorce?
I have thought that, yeah.
But if their daughter's suicidal, they better stick together, huh? You're not a bitch, you're a genius.
Very often, a child's extreme destructive behavior has the function of holding the parents' marriage together. How can parents proceed with a divorce when their child is suicidal?
I also have 2 sisters, and I don't want to see them hurt either. They're both younger than I am.
And they what either?
I don't want to see them hurt either.
Yeah. So she's trying to hold the family together, which, by the way, many of you may think is complete bullshit. But I've been with 3 million people. Kids are the most pure part of humans. Before we get so jaded that we forget we're here to serve. And this young woman, this young girl, is girl/woman. She's in between the two. She's part of an organism. That organism is her family. And at a subconscious level, she knows if she can distract them, she can maybe keep the parents together and keep her sisters from being done. She's not the little bitch who just wants attention. She's somebody who unconsciously is trying to do something to keep it together. And she wants attention and love too, and I feel like she's getting it. Both sides, both her wantingness to serve at a subconscious level and her desires for it. But she really doesn't want to die. She just wants to break the pattern. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
In clarifying Hannah's intention to help her family, Tony is also making suicide unnecessary. Once Hannah accepts her true intention, suicide cannot be seen as being helpful. The question now is, what would be helpful? Tony will help Hannah start by understanding her parents' needs.
But they don't understand that. Plus, there's one thing you don't understand, that you don't want to hear. But you need to, and I know you're willing to with me, because if you look in my eyes, you know I have a love for you that doesn't come from something you're giving me. Can you feel that? You're not giving me anything except your beauty of being a beautiful soul. I have nothing to take from you. But I can give you some truth. Your mom and dad may need to be apart if you love them. I don't know. And that scares the hell out of you. But they may be miserable, not because there's something to fix. They may be miserable because they have completely different approaches to what they want for life. And they may feel trapped because they love you. And I don't think you'd ever want to trap somebody. I don't think you're that kind of person.
When children try to help their parents by holding them together through concern and fear of the child's destructive behavior, they are exerting a tyranny over the parents. This way of attempting to protect the parents only leads to limiting the parents' options and to more despair in the family.
What I can also tell you is this. You know the worst thing that happens to any human? Be totally protected their whole life from pain. The worst thing you do is grow up in a family where you're rich and everything's given to you, or you're rich in love and everything's perfect and you never have any pain, and then you go into the real world and you have no life because you're not prepared. I don't wish pain on anybody, but every human I've ever known that is extraordinary has had 10 times more pain. But they used it for good instead of pain. People who've had extraordinary pain, somebody who's been raped, somebody who's been abused, somebody who's lost their family, somebody who's been through hell, who doesn't give in to the dark side of that, meaning selfishly just using that as leverage, people who do that have a unique inner strength. They have a gift nobody else has from the pain. And they're able to touch other lives in ways no one could dream of. And you've already experienced that pain, even though you haven't experienced it in some of the ways I've described. You've experienced that already because you care so much. So you have an inner strength.
Tony leads Hannah to understand what the consequences of her possible suicide would be. The parents would blame each other and end up separating. So Hannah's idea of how to hold the parents together would lead to the opposite result. Suicide then is out of the question.
You've gone to the edge, trying to serve, but you know it wouldn't serve if you died. It wouldn't keep them together. Then they'd blame each other. Wouldn't they? And then you would be the source of their separation. And you would have destroyed your sisters forever because they blamed themselves, thinking they didn't love you enough. Is that something you'd be willing to have happen? I didn't think so. So pills are out, and you don't like pain, so you're not going to cut yourself anyway. Because you're not a stupid girl. You're much smarter than anybody's been giving you credit for. But a little too smart for your own good, because you've been thinking 2 steps ahead, but you haven't thought 3 and 4. And your intent is the purest I've seen in a long time. It's really beautiful, really beautiful.
Tony reinforces the idea that suicide is out of the question by once again praising Hannah and eliciting the support of the group.
What are you feeling right now, and what are you thinking?
I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to go back home and deal with all this again.
I understand. Sounds like a lot. So how are you going to go home and deal with this? What matters most in the end?
My family staying together.
That your parents stay together. As long as you're attached to that specific result, then you no longer are committed to the happiness of the people involved. What matters most is they stay together, so even if they're miserable, as long as they're there together for you and the other girls, you said 2 sisters, is that what you said? Then that's okay for you. That they should stay out of fear and guilt till you all grow up. You're the oldest?
Mm-hmm.
How young is your youngest sister?
9.
9? So they should stay together at least another 10 years, right? Another 8, 9 years. So they should have a decade of their life miserable. That way you won't kill yourself. And then your sisters and you can learn that a relationship is about giving up everything and being unhappy. And then you guys can all do the same thing and try to get all your love from your children and burden your children because you don't love each other enough. Or use the children as weapons against each other. Because you're human. Aren't you?
The first step in helping anybody is to have a heartfelt and accurate understanding of their needs and what they do to meet their needs. Children will often skip this step and merely try to enforce the status quo, to keep the parents together or to get the father or mother to do something. By guiding Hannah through a more realistic picture of her parents' deeper needs, he will guide her to understand how she can be more helpful than she has been by threatening suicide.
So what's really most important then? Because you told me what used to be most important, that if you keep that most important, you're going to do the same kind of shit you've been doing here. Maybe not this. Maybe you'll just live miserable and worried and fearful it's all going to fall apart and your sisters' lives are not going to be taken care of. It's possible they will stay together, but if they stay together for this reason, would that be the right reason? Would be that a reason that would really serve your sisters? Would it serve you? Would it serve them? Then that's bullshit. It'd be pretty crazy to die over bullshit. So what's most important?
Notice that throughout, Tony has never told Hannah what to do, or even what is the right thing to do. Instead, he asks Hannah what is most important to her. He discusses the pros and cons of that, and then he asks again to see whether she has changed her mind. This way, the solution belongs to Hannah.
That my parents are happy with their marriage and my sisters and I are happy.
What if they're not happy with their marriage and they choose to change that?
Well, my mom knows that they have problems and she's tried to tell my dad, you know, they need to go talk to like a counselor. And my dad is an extremely hard person at times, really cold, and he just does not want to hear it. He thinks that they can just fix their own problems and it's not working. And sometimes I just feel torn because my mom will try and pull me against my dad, and my dad tries to pull me against my mom.
Yes. Didn't I say that a minute ago? That's what I meant by weapons.
Yeah.
Did you ever pick your teeth with a microphone?
Notice how Tony manages Hannah's emotional state by introducing playfulness and humor whenever she goes into a pattern of pain. This enables her to feel what she is feeling without getting stuck.
I have.
I can see that.
With, since they're not here, which one are you closer to, your mom or your dad?
I would have to say my mom. Because my dad has said some pretty hurtful things to me before. He's called me a piece of shit to my face.
Can I ask you a question? Do you need to fart again? Because if you can't burp, you got to fart. It's going to get one of the two is going to happen pretty soon here. Back off, sir. You're in the wrong position. Did he mean it? Did he mean it?
He says he doesn't. He denies it, but my sister...
I'm asking you, did he mean it? I know he said it. He denies it because he's humiliated within himself, because he loves you. Did he mean it? I don't know him. Just tell me the truth.
I don't think so.
Did he mean it or not? You know whether he meant it or not. Does he think you're a piece of... First of all, was it a soft piece of shit, a hard one, a large one? Was it lumpy? Did it have corn in it?
He didn't say.
He didn't say. Okay, well, did he mean it?
Part of me at times wants to believe that he did, but deep down I know that he didn't.
Right. The part of you that wants to believe he did is the part of you that wants to protect yourself from being hurt. So if I can think he did that, then I don't have to be close to him, so then I'll never get hurt again. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. Is that true or false for you? For you, it doesn't matter what I believe.
That's true for me.
So then you know the truth. He didn't mean it. Now, he knows he was a dick. Okay? Yeah, he was a dick. Any man that says to his daughter, you're a piece of shit, is a dick.
It is important, especially when dealing with a child, to confirm what is acceptable and what is unacceptable. For a father to call his daughter a piece of shit is unacceptable from any point of view, and to minimize the father's words would be a distortion of reality.
However, everyone has a right to be a dick at least once or twice in their lifetime, even though they shouldn't. Even you could be a dick. I think when you took those pills, you were a dick. Do you agree with me?
Having confirmed for Hannah the reality that the father's statement was unacceptable, Tony can now proceed to emphasize tolerance and the view that even a father can make a mistake. Tony takes the opportunity to compare the father's unacceptable behavior with Hannah's unacceptable behavior and labels them equally stupid. In this humorous way, he restores the bond between Hannah and her father. They both are dicks.
Because you had no intention of dying, that's when you went and told them right away. Which I'm really glad you did, because otherwise I couldn't have met you. Well, I guess later on. But why waste our time? Why not enjoy it while we're here? We're here for a reason. And it isn't just to feel good, by the way. It's to serve. But we got to serve what serves everyone, not just what we think will serve us or everyone. We have to be able to open up our idea what that is to more than one dimension, especially at this stage of life when we're only 40 and 14. You're in love. And you love your daddy, and he's a hard man to love sometimes. Trust me, I had 4 of them. I understand this. One of them, nobody came to the funeral. I was the only one there. He was a big dick. I still loved him though. Still honor him to this day. Because even though he's a dick, there were things that he did give in moments. They were very brief, but they were invaluable to me. There are moments where I did feel loved by him. Tell me a moment you felt really loved by your dad.
One time we got in this really big fight, and we made up, we apologized to each other, and he was just like sitting there holding me, and I was just crying on his shoulder, and I felt so loved right then.
Aw. Aw.
After showing empathy for Hannah's difficulties with her father, Tony elicits her best memories and her love for him.
So think about this. Your daddy's not much of a touch or holding guy normally, is he?
Oh no, and another thing with him is he thinks he's always right, everybody else is wrong. And he tells you what you're thinking too. He tells you how you feel.
He's a man. You're gonna bump into more of these in the future. It's just an amazing thing. And your dad's not much of a toucher, and he's a little bit righteous. How come? Do you understand your dad?
My mom.
Holy, you expect him to understand you?
No, my mom doesn't either, because she
Wait a second, so now we lower our standard? My mom doesn't either?
Well, he never used to be like that. When they first met, she's like, he was the most caring, wonderful, loving person she'd ever met. And
Maybe she hadn't met many people.
well, no. They've been married for 17 years.
Wow. How many of those years were they happy?
Notice how Hannah has taken up her mother's position, her mother's stories, and her mother's complaints about the father. If Hannah continues to be constrained by her parents' example, she will continue to get lost in her parents' relationship issues and will not be able to help in any way. Tony will encourage Hannah to rise above her conflict of loyalties and find the best thing she can do for her family.
6, maybe.
6? So half your life they were happy and the other half they're not.
Well, I wasn't born at that point.
It was before, oh, it's your fault.
No.
No what?
Well, my mom, because I've asked my mom that, I was like, did he start acting this way after I was born? She's like, no, it was about a year or 2 before you were born.
What do you think happened a year before you were born?
I have no clue. I wasn't there.
So you want everybody to understand you and you don't understand them. Is that being very loving?
No.
But I know you're a loving soul. Maybe it's time to understand your father. If you really wanted to help your mom and dad stay together, or at least go back to loving each other even if they were apart, then you'd have to understand your dad, because your mother's never going to figure it out. Because she's too pissed off, too hurt. And so is he. But you're smart enough to be able to figure it out. Plus you do love him. And he does love you. He won't open up very easily, but anybody could. It's you. You could do it. So that no matter what happens, at least you and he would have a great relationship. And so would your sisters. But you'd have to have more compassion for him than your mom has right now. Not because your mom's not loving, but because she's scared. So are you, but you're very courageous. You know you can get yourself to do things most people could never get themselves to do. But now it's time to challenge for something really good. Plus, if you figure out your father, you'll even figure out other men, which means you won't have to go through all this pain again, and neither will your children. So it's a worthy adventure. It's not something that happens in a day. It takes time and passion and patience and consistency and persistence and the precociousness of a little girl, but the will of a woman. I'm just wondering whether or not that would be a better approach than pills.
Once Hannah's love for her father has been brought out, Tony whispers in her ear his most important message. Love starts with heartfelt understanding. If Hannah accepts the mission of truly understanding her father, then love and compassion will replace her despair. Tony will encourage Hannah to rise above her conflict of loyalties and to be an example for her mother and show her how she too can love the father. Sometimes it's possible to change parents through their children, and this will be the case with Hannah. Now take a moment to ask yourself, as you were growing up, what were the limiting beliefs and examples held in your family? Can you imagine how things would have been different in your family if someone had taken the initiative to create a new, powerful example of action and heartfelt understanding? Did you have such an example in your life? How did it affect you? Now think about your life today. What could you accomplish in your family unit by creating a new example of proactive compassion and love? Who would be affected by that kind of commitment? Now let's return to Hannah.
What are you feeling right now with that big smile on your face?
I feel a lot better. I do.
How come? You like whispers?
No, I'm gonna go back home and I think I'm just gonna talk to my dad and just ask him why he acts that way. Just try to get to know him better.
But here's what's gonna happen. He's a guy, so let me tell you about guys. He's gonna go, because I am. Because they have like 2 syllables. I am. It is. Women's biggest thing is, why don't they talk? Men's biggest thing is, why do they always talk? What does he do?
He's a financial advisor. He works from home.
Financial advisor that works from home. Holy. He has to be right, don't you see? Every day he has to be right. And he's a place where he can't always be right. Because the best people in the world, I work with one of the top 3 financial traders in the world. He made $500 million in a day, and he's wrong more than half the time. Oh, and some days he calls me in the morning and says, I lost $30 million, and he's throwing up. Because he cares about all his clients. He has to be right every day, and he can't be. How'd you like to live in that world? So you have to pretend you are so you don't beat yourself into the ground every day. Plus, if he's not right, no one's going to come to him. And no one comes to him, he can't support the family. And I bet he doesn't feel like he's enough, even if he's doing well, because he can never be enough. Because in that business, they teach you you're never enough. So he's in a game he cannot win, but he has to. How stressed would that make you?
Very.
Enough to take pills, huh? Now, on top of this, he doesn't understand your mom. Or does he?
I don't think he does. I think that's part of the problem because he blames all their problems, most of them, I'd say 90% on her. It's all her fault.
Yes. Why would he do that?
This is the crucial question that creates heartfelt understanding. Tony sees that Hannah had been allied with a mother in her frustration and lack of understanding of the father. As long as Hannah and her sisters take the mother's side, the father will get more and more frustrated and alienated. By asking Hannah, why would he do that? Tony is asking Hannah to put herself in her father's shoes, to understand his circumstances, and in that way to free herself of her mother's restrictive point of view. By simply expanding her own view of the situation, Hannah can reorganize the entire family dynamic.
Because he doesn't want to feel guilty because deep down he knows that half of the problems are his. He doesn't want any blame for it.
And he already is so raw. He can't take another ounce of it. Plus, he probably loves your mom. But he doesn't know how the hell to get through. Because when she talks about her problems, if he tries to solve them, she's pissed off. He's making it small. Because here's something you're going to learn. Girls love to make little big. And guys like to take big and make it little.
Tony is giving Hannah a key for understanding her parents' most frequent conflicts.
And it pisses each other off or it hurts their feelings. When a guy comes home, the last thing he wants is another problem. So he makes it small and then she feels like he doesn't understand. Ooh, that one went in deep, didn't it? Ooh, wow.
No, I was just thinking about something I hadn't thought about before. My mom told me something, I think it was about a year ago. Before they were married, she got pregnant. And my dad really wanted, it was about a month before they got married, he really, really, really wanted to have kids, and my mom didn't, so they had an abortion. And
So dad what?
they had an abortion. My
Right.
dad wanted to have the kid, my mom didn't.
Yes.
So my dad loved my mom, so he's like, okay, you don't want the kid, we'll have an abortion. About 2 years later, my mom got pregnant again. This is after they had been married. And my dad wanted to have kids once again, and my mom didn't, so they got another abortion. And I think that he knows that's wrong, because, abortion is really wrong. I think he blames her for that. I think she blames herself for that, too.
You just came up with the answer to what happened before you were born. Give her a hand for that. That's beautiful. That's pretty perceptive. That's more like 40, not 14. So I'll give you the full 14. We won't have to say 13 from now on. So why did your mom not want to have kids back then? She probably told you, didn't she?
First of all, they're 7 years apart. My mom's 7 years younger than my dad. My dad's very intelligent. He's extremely smart. And he just wanted to settle down, and my mom was still crazy and wild and just wanted to have her own life. She didn't want kids interfering.
Yes.
Plus, she was working at that time. She was a special ed teacher for 9 years, I think it was. And
Right.
she didn't want to have a kid because it would interfere with her work.
So for him, kids was the ultimate, wasn't it?
He wanted to have kids. My mom didn't.
So for years, the ultimate to him was denied because your mom wanted to, as she described to you, work and be wild. Do you think that would hurt him?
Mm-hmm.
How deeply?
Very deep.
When it's something that somebody values more than anything on earth, it hurts a lot. And then if he has religious beliefs, is that what you said? He has beliefs that it's wrong regardless?
Yes.
So then also
Christians, yes. He's very religious.
very religious. So then he would have judgment about this, that he let it happen, even more than judgment for your mother, that he let her do this.
And they weren't Christians back then when they did that. They were just starting to.
You know, it doesn't matter though. When people get judging, some people use their religion to be harsh to themselves. Because your father's looking for certainty in a world he can't have certainty in. He picked a profession with no certainty. He picked a wife he thought would be a certain way, and she didn't turn out that way. He's playing a game he can't win, so he's got a religion where he can win. And then you're right, your mom probably has some guilt about this too, especially now, right? Because now she wouldn't do that again. No, but she can't change it because it's the past. But if something's in the past, why go back and go through the pain all over again? Would you go to a horrible movie 10,000 times?
No.
Why not?
Because I wouldn't want to see that again and go through that pain again, or the fear of watching the movie.
Well, what kind of person would do that, go to the same movie 10,000 times?
Well, they obviously like being disgusted.
They like being disgusted. Very good. Give her a hand. Very nice. And, or they've gotten used to it. Same thing, I guess, huh? Maybe that's the only thing they're certain about is they can count on being disgusted. I want you to know that oftentimes in life we learn when we don't know we're learning. Like, don't know what's happening right now exactly. You know much more than you realize you know. You understand now what's really gone on with your mom and dad, maybe even better than they do, but they probably couldn't hear it from you. And even hearing it probably wouldn't solve it, right? Because the emotions of it are so strong and locked in and so forth. So, what's most important?
My parents' happiness, and I want my mom to feel loved.
My parents' happiness, I want my mom to feel loved. What does your mom require to feel loved?
She wants someone that can care for her and that's always there and that meets her needs. And my dad right now at this point is really not doing that. He never like sits down and talks to her about how she's feeling. He just always yells at her and blames everything on her, makes her take all the blame, and he just like pushes her away. He pushes everybody away.
Your dad's in a lot of pain, isn't he?
I think so, yeah.
You think so or you know so?
I know so.
You know a little bit about pain too, don't you?
Yes.
You know what it feels like to feel like you can't make people happy that you want to be happy. That's what your dad feels with your mom. And that's what your mom feels with your dad. And you want them to stay together no matter what. So they can continue to feel like this. So you want your mom to be happy and you want your mom to feel loved.
Mm-hmm.
Can you really control all this?
No.
Having raised Hannah to where she would be an example of heartfelt understanding to her family, Tony now returns her to her role as a child. She really cannot control the parents' lives. She can only influence them through her example.
The thing that creates pain is trying to control things we can't control, instead of influencing the things we can influence and being compassionate for people as they find their way. Loving people and remembering they're not their behavior. And I'm a man and I'm a boy. And so is your dad. I'm a man because I can serve. I'm a boy because I feel sometimes scared, sad, worried, strong, stupid, crazy. It might be good for you to remember he's a boy too. Have you dealt with any of these creatures? Have any experience with these creatures yet? Boys? What have you learned so far?
They're jerks.
Hannah has grown and learned so much over the last hour. Where before she had echoed her mother's painful complaints and judgments about her father, now Hannah has understanding and empathy for both of her parents. Now Tony wants to give Hannah a chance to apply her new understanding to another context, the normal social concerns of a 13-year-old.
Can you give me an example?
Well, there was this one guy that I liked, and he was like extremely cocky, and he was like a huge show off, and he was like, yeah, I really like you, Hannah, but everybody else is like, he doesn't like you, he likes this other girl. And so one day he comes to me and he's like, he tells me that he wanted to marry me, and I'm like, okay, I'm 13, you're 15. And he's like, but I can't because I'm Catholic and you're not. I'm just like, you asshole.
And what did he say?
Well, I didn't tell him that.
You didn't actually tell him that. You just thought it.
Well, I thought that Anna was like really hurt because I really liked him, you know?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he's like, I don't like you anymore. So
Yeah.
it really hurt. So I'm like,
So what did you surmise from that? Boys are jerks?
yeah.
Now, I know you love your mother, but you don't want to become her. Because then you'll have the same pain, and so will your children. So we have a choice in our life to give things a meaning. And the meanings we give control our entire lives. Because once we decide what it means, even on little levels, it starts to add up. And big problems start with little thoughts. And great achievements start with little thoughts. And deep loves start with no thoughts, but just heart, compassion, trust, faith. What did you just feel there? What was that? What did you just feel? What was that? Check in and see. What are you feeling right now?
Confusion.
She's confused. Give her a hand, ladies and gentlemen.
The audience is cheering because they have been shown that when people are confused, they are open to a new way of solving a problem.
What do you call, Hannah, a girl that takes pills to scare her parents and then takes them again and almost dies even though that's not her intent? Would you call her a jerk? So are girls jerks too?
Yes, they can
Holy, girls can be jerks? Are they jerks or can they be jerks?
They can be jerks.
Are boys jerks or can they be jerks?
They can be jerks.
I see. You just happened to meet one that was a good jerk. Is there a difference?
Yes,
Are you a jerk or did you do some jerky shit?
I did some jerky shit.
This little boy, he walks around so arrogant. You're smart enough to know why. Why? He doesn't feel what?
Secure about himself.
Yeah. Which would put him in with about 99.999% of the planet. The only difference is he tries to overcompensate by acting arrogant. Some people try to act like they're hurt so that people will care for them. Some people try to do it by pretending they're more spiritual. Some people try to do it by achieving more. Some people try to do it by having children that'll love them no matter what, and even if they're messed up. So he's just like everybody else. He just picked a style that you don't like. But your mom and dad don't deserve the style you picked either, girl.
No, they don't.
And neither do you. Do you?
No.
And neither do your sisters. So no matter how much you want to serve, is this a route worthy of taking ever again?
No.
Will you ever attempt to take your life again under any circumstance, no matter how crazy or scary it is?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't know that I'm not responsible for my parents' problems and I can't put all their blame on myself.
Hannah was able to let go of the things she could not control and focus only on the best ways that she could serve and help her family. When Hannah went home, her mother saw so many positive changes that she came to a Tony Robbins live seminar as well. Here is a letter to Tony from Hannah's mother. To the gentle giant, I must admit I had my doubts about what you were about. But after seeing what you did for my daughter and myself, I have no doubts anymore, only belief. When Hannah came back from UPW, it was rough around here for a while because she had made such a drastic change, yet we were still the same parents, more confused than ever. Over the next few months, we have seen a peace come over Hannah, and it was consistent. She was owning who she was, and she liked herself. After I returned from Date with Destiny, Hannah could see the change in Mom, and so now it was time for me to lay all of my hostility down and make peace with my husband. So as tough as it was, I laid down my pride and it worked. We take one day at a time, and our silence has now become communication. Back to Hannah. I think what I noticed also was the change in her singing. Maybe after getting rid of her baggage, she was able to free her voice. She is currently working with CDS from one of the best studios in Nashville. We are doing all we can to encourage her any which way she wants to go. You have been a blessing to our family, and I thank you from the bottom of my soul. God is definitely using you to serve. Jill.
So I have a question for you. Life isn't worth living. That's the best response you can get. What is that? What is that phrase?
Bullshit.
When working with a suicidal person, the goal is to get them to such a point of emotional resourcefulness that they find the concept of suicide completely ridiculous and laughable.
Give her a hand.
Hannah stood up about an hour ago. She was lost in a sea of confusion. She did not understand her parents' problems, and yet she felt compelled to get involved. She wanted to help her parents, but she was confined by her mother's example of frustration, pain, self-criticism, and resentment of the father. Since she didn't know how to truly help the parents, Hannah found a way to shock and distract them through her suicidal behavior, and so she learned to control her family through self-inflicted violence, even though she clearly didn't believe in either violence or suicide. In speaking with her, Tony quickly shifted the game. By asking her to burp, he showed her in a humorous way to recognize her shortcoming of not being able to let go of pain. Then he gently showed her that in order to be of any help, she would have to put herself in both of her parents' shoes and fully understand their needs and circumstances. By taking the initiative of loving, understanding, and tolerating both parents, she would introduce a new example and reorganize her entire family dynamic. By forgiving her father, she was able to become less critical of herself and to like and appreciate herself more as well. Finally, she was able to clearly see that her parents' relationship was not in her control, that she could only influence them by being their loving child. Today, her new example in the family has inspired the mother to lay down her resentments towards the father and to start building a base of understanding and communication in the family. Where once Hannah had tried to save her parents' marriage by suicide threats, now the parents are saved by her example of heartfelt understanding and compassion. Whatever Hannah did, it worked. Here's a letter from Hannah to Tony and Sage Robbins. Dear Tony and Sage, I can't begin to tell you how grateful I am for everything you've done for my family. The change in my mom is unbelievable. And as much as my dad denies it, I know he sees it too. One of the changes in me since we spoke is my voice. And that is such a blessing for me because I've always loved to sing, and my goal is to become a singer. My voice has just really opened up, and I will continue to practice and work on my singing. Although I must say I still do not know how to burp, Tony. I do know how to let things out. It's funny because when I first came back, I would sit at the table and try to burp, and my family thought I was a little strange. After explaining to them why I was trying to burp, I think they thought you were strange. I had to laugh at my mom when she told me about when she met you. She said you look so much taller in person, and her mouth probably dropped right open. She even has a new name for you. She calls you the Gentle Giant. Well, I hope you both enjoy the CD. I can't wait until I see you both again, and thanks again for everything. Love always, Hannah. I recently spoke with Hannah's mother, and she told me that her relationship with her husband is stronger and better than ever.